Okay,
Yes, sir.
good. Okay, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, after completing the dichotomy, from today onwards, we'll be beginning our discussion on some of the important families from monocotyledons. Dear friends, you know that monocotyledons group is more evolved than dicotyledons, and this particular group is characterized by very important characters like it is having the parallel venation, the floral arrangement is of a trimerous type, and it is having the closed vascular bundles. Whereas in case of dicots, the vascular bundles they are of open type. So even though the secondary growth is present in all these members, this secondary growth may be by the formation of extracambial zone, which is producing the closed vascular bundles inside. And because of that, the monocotyledon group is one of the advanced and evolved group among the taxonomy, among the angiosperms. Now, as far as this group is concerned, the major characteristic feature of embryological importance is that, as in case of dicots, some of the primitive dicots, they are containing more than 2 cotyledons. So even though it is placed in dicotyledons, in Reynolds group, we will find the polycotyledonary condition. The cotyledon number is more than 2. And then in dicotyledons, most of the times it is reduced to 2. Similarly, in case of monocotyledons, in primitive monocots, we can find a dicotyledonary condition. That is occurrence of 2 cotyledons, and of these 2 cotyledons, one is dominant and one is suppressive. So ultimately, even though we can get a single cotyledon at the end, another cotyledon is present and it is submissive type. It is repressed type. And because of that, the phylogeny of angiosperms, it goes or it begins with the polycotyledonary condition, dicotyledonary condition, and then monocotyledonary condition. Similarly, in dicots, it has been now accepted that the dicots evolved from the tree habit. Initially, most of the plants were trees and they were having the free petals or free floral parts, and slowly they showed the reduction. The reduction was from the actinomorphy to zygomorphy. That is from the regular features to irregular characters, and also reduction in characters. Now, very interestingly, in monocotyledons, it has been assumed that the first and primitive monocots, they were herbaceous. Whereas from these herbaceous forms, the tree habit in monocots, it has been evolved. For example, the family Parnaceae or the family Bombycaceae, all the bamboos, grasses, even the palms, these are the perennial plants which are tree-like habit, but they are derived from the herbaceous forms. And because of that, when we are studying the monocots, the perspective of this monocot is totally different when we compare it with the dicots. And because of that, we have to trace some of the interesting families. The first family which we are going to study today is the family Alizomataceae. It's a very important family from phylogenetic point of view. It's an important family because it is assumed as a link between the dicots and monocots. And also this is a unique family which is showing several characters which are indicating its primitiveness from ontogenical point of view, that is from evolutionary point of view. So as far as the Alizomataceae is concerned, now remember, the Alizomataceae is the previous name. Now the name genera of this family is Alizomar. And because of that, recently, if you follow the recent research articles, you will find the name that it is Alizomataceae, not Mataceae. So we have to identify both these names together. Either it may be Alismatiaceae as I have written, or the new name which has come up, particularly the name which has been introduced in the APG 3 classification. So the classification which is coming in the 21st century, in that this family is pronounced as the Alismaceae family. Now that way this family is a cosmopolitan family. It is generally found in both temperate as well as a tropical zone, and also this family is represented basically in the old world. So basically, even though it is present in 5 continents, this family is that way restricted because many of the genera which are growing up, these genera, they are endemic in the given habitat. So they are not widespread. Even though the family is cosmopolitan, the spread of the family is not widespread. It is restricted and is present in the form of endemic zone. Now, as far as the members are concerned, most of the members, they are aquatic plants. They are the aquatic herbs. Obviously, they are perennial because they are having the rhizomatous corm or a bulb or a tuber as a stem, which is giving rise to the leaves. Now, this particular family is a freshwater as well as a marine algae, a marine form. So, there are some members, at least 2 genera are there, who are found in brackish water. That is, they are present on the marine area, whereas other genera, they are present in the freshwater. So today, as far as Alismatiaceae is concerned, a lot of taxonomical treatment has been given to this Alismatiaceae. And because of that, you will find that if you follow the different textbooks or reference books, you will identify the different number of genera that have been included. For example, this family, in some cases, all the genera they have been included together, where this Alismatiaceae number goes highest as much as to 28 genera. And many of the times, this particular family has been split into several small genera. And because of that, then automatically the number is restricted. Now, Alismatiaceae, in general, the true genera which are belonging to Alismatiaceae, there are 15 genera. And in all, there are 85 species which are spread all over the world. In India, we are having the 6 genera and 14 species. Generally, Alismatiaceae is the family which is found in calcareous area or laterite area. And because of this, this member is very common in Western Ghats. These members, they are very common in ponds in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, even in Kerala. And then automatically these members are present in sub-Himalayan range or sub-Himalayan zone. In India, there is no any record of the marine member. All the members which are present, they are of fresh water forms. Now the members which are present are Alisma, Echinodorus, Limnophyton, and the most common which is present around us is the Sagittaria. So Sagittaria is a very common aquatic Alismatiaceae member which is present around us. And there is one member which has been reported from Uttaranchal area, that is Ran Alisma. Now, as the habitat is concerned, as I told you, the plants are annual, as well as they are perennial herbs. Annual means sometimes they die out, and the new generation plants they generate from the seeds, or sometimes the perennial corm remains in the soil, and with the next sprout of the water body, they will again regenerate and form the new leaves. So the plants are either annual or perennial. They are aquatic herbs. Obviously, they are hydrophytic. Now, these are present in 2 forms. Either they are totally submerged or they may be also present as emergent plants. Emergent means they are present on the margins. So lower part of the plants is submerged in the water, whereas the leaves and the floral parts of the inflorescence, it comes up in the air. So it may be in the totally submerged form or it may be totally in an emergent form. As I told you, they are both freshwater as well as marine water members. Now, the stem is rhizomatous. Very importantly, the stem shows the presence of latissiferous ducts in the cortex and pith. And because of that, also, it is having a very smooth bark. And within the bark also, we are finding the latissiferous ducts. It is also showing the presence of adventitious roots. Now, these adventitious roots, they are generally present on the lower side of the stem, whereas on the upper side of the stem, which is the shoot part, which is bearing the number of leaves. Now, as far as the leaves are concerned, the leaves are You know well, as it is a herbaceous form, the leaves are exstipulate, they are petiolate. Sometimes they may be, the petiole may be having the sheathing leaf base. Most of the times the leaves are simple or they are pinnately or palmately veined. So lamina is entire, but it is showing the different type of venation pattern. Particularly when we are finding the pinnately venation form, it is very similar and close to that of family Nymphaceae. And because of that, if you see the architecture of the leaf, this family is very closely resembling to that of Nymphaceae. Now the leaves which are coming up from the bottom, they are in the form of either radicle or they are present in the form of a whorl. So they are never alternate. The lamina, which is either freely floating in the air or it is floating on the surface of the water body, or the lamina may be coming up in the air. Sometimes you can find the leaf lamina which is of a cordate or sagittate type. A sagittate means arrowhead type. So you know the arrowhead which is pointed and having the border at the base. So that particular form is called as sagittate. Now sagittate particular term has been also used in the personate corolla, particularly in the family Labiatae, where we are having the sagittate anthers. Also in the family Apocynaceae, we are having the sagittate anther, that is anthers are arrowhead shaped. Now these are some of the figures which are present around us. So this is the genus Sagittaria. On one side we are having the Pusillus and other side we are having the Gracilis form. So Sagittaria, you can see the leaf. That leaf is itself is called a Sagittarius leaf. And then you can see the inflorescence. Here also you can see the inflorescence which is coming up from the axillary position, and it is a few flowered sign. You can see the typical flower which is a trimerous in condition with the occurrence of bracts. Obviously there is a presence of calyx and corolla. Now this is another plant which is present around us. Particularly this plant is very rich in Cochonneria, the left side plant, that is Echinodorus. Now Echinodorus is very common in Cochonneria as well as in the peninsula of India, and it is present in a free floating form in freshwater ponds. And then the typical genus with which the name has been derived, you can see the racemose inflorescence, and you can see a typical flower with the bract at the base, and then it is showing the calyx and corolla. So this is a typical alisma. So Sagittaria, Echinodorus, alisma is the common genera of this family. As far as the alismatice is concerned, the inflorescence, it may be either solitary or it may be a terminal cymose inflorescence or racemose inflorescence, both. When it is present in the form of cymose inflorescence, this can be called as a panicle. So many flowers may be coming up from the same base or same node, and then ultimately it is forming a dome, and that's why it's called the panicle inflorescence. Now as far as the flowers are concerned, the flowers are very large in size, they are bracteate. Obviously the flowers are trimerous, the flowers are regular, they are bisexual, obviously they are cyclic. The ori superior, that's why the flowers are hypogynous. The flowers are large, and they are also having a very strong and stout, long elongated pedicel. So because of that, the flowers are pedicellate. As I told you that in these flowers there is a presence of calyx and corolla. Usually calyx and corolla, they are 3+3, they are free, they are valvate. Particularly in alismatice, the calyx is persistent. So we can find the scaly green calyx even in the fruit condition. Now as far as the corolla is concerned, the corolla is having the imbricate estivation or valvate estivation. They are large and showy. Sometimes the corolla may be deciduous. That is, at the onset of opening of the flower, the corolla may fall down. Usually the alismatice corolla may be either white or pink or red in color. In few cases, it may show the tinges of yellow. As far as the stamens are concerned, there are 3 to 6 stamens are present, but sometimes the number of stamens may be more. It may be up to 36. The stamens are free, they are opening outside, they are extros, and generally they are alternate to the petal lobes. All the stamens are fertile, there is no any staminodes at all. The filaments are very short, but the anthers are long. That's why it's very interesting character. And this character is resembling to the lamellar stamen structure, which is present in Ranunculaceae as well as in the family Nymphaceae. And because of that, this family is very important. So the filaments are short and the anthers are long. Obviously, the anthers are dithecous. They are having the two anther lobes and they are opening longitudinally. Sometimes even the stamens themselves are petaloid. They are colored. As in the figure also you have seen that they are yellow in color. As far as the gynoecium is concerned, the ovary is tricarpellary, syncarpus, and ovary is tricarpellary and apocarpus. That is an important character. That is, the ovary is free. The carpels are free. Now each carpel is superior and it is 1 to 2 ovule. So the position of the ovule and the number of the ovule, it may be 1 to 2. And very interestingly, even though the two ovules are many times more than 2 ovules are present, they are showing the basal placentation. It is not the axial placentation. And remember, the basal placentation is one of the primitive character as far as the phylogeny of the angiosperms is concerned, phylogeny of the monocots is concerned. That is the primitiveness of the monocot is concerned. So the style, in this case, it is a lateral. It is not at the center. It is coming from one side. And the style is always gynobasic. It is maybe coming from the base of the receptacle. Obviously, the stigma is globose. And because of that, this Alizomatidae family is a very interesting family. So because the carpels are free, the fruit which is formed, it is always an aggregate. That is, the carpels are free and the fruit is a composite fruit. And this composite fruit, it is called the aggregate of follicle. Or it may be an achene. So when the fruit is opening up by the vertical slits, it's called a follicle. Or it may be a dry, hard nut form and it's called an achene. And the fruit may be in a dehiscent form. As far as the Alizomatidae is concerned, the seeds are present. They are either single seed per locule or there may be 2 seeds per locule. And obviously because of the ovary, many seeds are produced. The seeds are non-endospermic. So endosperm is totally utilized. Whereas it is having a very large embryo. That is again a unique character of monocotyledons. Because in rest of the monocotyledons, the seeds are endospermic and the endosperm is large in size and the embryo is smaller. I suppose you must be knowing the example of a maize. In maize, the endosperm is large and the embryo is very small. Whereas in this case, the seeds are non-endospermic, the endosperm is not at all present or it is consumed and the embryo which is present, it is larger in size. Very interestingly, this is a unique family where we can find the horseshoe-shaped embryo. Now this horseshoe-shaped embryo is a typical character which is found in the family Ranunculaceae. Now this is a typical character again which is found in the family Winteraceae. The Winteraceae family is again a family which is belonging to the group Rennales or order Rennales. So the horseshoe-shaped endosperm or horseshoe-shaped embryo in the seed, it is showing its association, it is showing its parallel course of evolution from the Rennales group. And because of that, the Alizomatidae family is important from the phylogenetic point of view. Now, this is a sort of a colored sketch of the floral parts. You can see a sagittate leaves, then you can see the comb at the bottom, you can see the elongated petiole, and obviously you can see there's a presence of closed vascular bundles. So vascular bundles, there are closed types with a lot of erynchyma, which is present at the bottom. And then you can see the structure of the flowers. Now towards the upper side of the right corner, you can see the single flower, which is showing the 3 persistent sepals, which are petaloid. And then it is showing the pink coronal lobes. At the center, you can see the many stamens, which are free, where the filament is short and the anther lobes are present, which are placed laterally. And then at the center, you can see the styles, which are yellow in color. So this is a diagrammatic sketch of a plant. This is the plant Sagittaria, which has been placed. Now in the bottom of left side, you can see the structure of the carpels, the arrangement of carpels on the conical thalamus, as well as it is the nature of the fruit. And from this figure, you will really recognize that this is a typical gynoecium which is found in the family Magnoliaceae. So in Magnoliaceae also, the several carpels or the several whorls are present, which are formed in a conical elongated thalamus, and they are arranged in a spirocyclic fashion. Similarly, here also you can see the arrangement of carpels in a spirocyclic fashion on a conical thalamus. It is not elongated, but it is a conical thalamus. And because of the thalamus, it is called the receptacle. And on this receptacle, these free carpels are present. Now, this is a sort of a drawing sketch of the genus Alisma, where you can see a panicle inflorescence, which is a compound branch panicle. Then at the center, you can see the Alisma plantago, a flower which is showing in an LS form. Again, it is showing at the bottom, at the center. You can see a flower which is showing the calyx, corolla, and androecium with the short style, short filament, and the diathecous stigmas, which are extrose in position. And then at the center, you can see the free carpels. Similarly, at the same time, at the center of the bottom, you can see the free carpels, which are developed into a fruit, where you can see the free capsules. So this is called as an aggregate of achene. In Alisma, we can find it is an aggregate of achene, and towards the left side of that particular fruit, you can see a single carpel, which is having a stalk and a carp ovule, and you can see a laterally placed style. You can see in this figure, there is a small notch which is having an appendage, and this appendage is nothing but it is a free lateral style which is present. Again, this lateral position of the style is a unique character which is present in the family Nymphaceae. And because of that, from these two characters, it is, even though this we are discussing the family Alismataceae, this is showing several characters which are very close or similar to that of Ranunculaceae. That is the order group Reinels or order Reinels. When we are talking about the Alismataceae, the family has been reckoned as one of the most primitive families of the monocotyledons. Because of this aqueous habitat, because of the herbaceous nature, because of small plants, because of the free characters, this family is treated as one of the most primitive family of the monocotyledons. So the family Alismataceae is identified as one of the most primitive families of monocots in the scale of evolution, and from this herbaceous form, the three forms of monocots that have been evolved, or terrestrial plants have been evolved, and it has been consequently placed first in the classification of monocotyledons. So Engler and Prantl, as well as the Rendel, they place this family in Pandanus. So obviously, when we are discussing about the Pandanus, we have discussed this Pandanus group. Well, we have discussed the family Casuarinaceae, and we were discussing the family Casuarinaceae in relationship with the unisexuals group or unisexual series from the Amentiferae group. So Pandanus also is a family or group which is belonging to the Amentiferae, and here also Engler and Prantl and later on Rendel, they treated this family as one of the members of one of the members of Daphneus group, Pandanus group, and it has been placed at the beginning. In the second series of Helobi, the primitiveness of the family is marked with the free carpels, numerous stamens, and hypogynous flowers, which are free. So in this case, there is the presence of perianth, but in other cases, the perianth may be not distinguished into calyx and corolla. Only perianth may be present, or even the perianth may be absent. And because of that, it has been placed, as I told you at the beginning, in the Daphneus group. Here also treated it as a Pandanus, and then it was placed in the Helobi. So this is at the beginning of the classification, which has been placed at the beginning of the monocots. Now, Alismataceae resembles Ranunculaceae, as I told you before, because of the hypogynous flowers, free sepals, free petals, and numerous free stamens and apocarpous ovary, free stamens and carpels, and also fruit which is formed as an etario of achenes or etario of follicles. Now, all these characters, that is free stamens and free carpels, this character is also very common to that of a family Commelinaceae, because in Commelinaceae also we are finding the horseshoe shaped embryo, and because of that we are supposed to even compare this family with the Combinaceae. But it can be distinguished from others from its aquatic habitat because Ranunculacea and Combinaceae, they are terrestrial plants. To some extent, Combinaceae members, they are marshy plants. They are present in the vicinity of water. But as far as the Alismatiaceae is concerned, it is a typically true aquatic habitat. The form of the inflorescence and the two whorls of perianth. Now, it also resembles the family Nymphaeaceae as far as when we are comparing the morphology of the stamens. Because here also we can find the stamens which are very similar to the lamellar character, and in Nymphaeaceae also the stamens are free, they are arranged on the conical receptacle, and they are of a lamellar nature where the enlarged connective is present. Here the connective is not enlarged, but the two anther lobes, they are placed laterally on the stout filament, and because of that it is the character which is very similar to that of Nymphaeaceae, and it is having the superficial placentation, or it is also called the basal placentation, but its further affinity is to be yet to be established because there are several characters of advancement which are shown in the family Combinaceae which are not seen in Alismatiaceae, because in Combinaceae as well as in Ranunculaceae, the floral structure is in the multiples of 4 or 5, whereas in Alismatiaceae it is a typical trimerous flower, and because of that also it is showing several monocot characters like having a parallel venation, closed vascular bundles, and many other characters. Now, as far as the Alismatiaceae is concerned, though this is a monocot family, it bears a remarkable affinity with the Ranunculaceae and Nymphaeaceae in general construction of a flower from the developmental point of view. So this has been proved in the genus Ranalisma, as well as the same has been found in even the genus Alisma and Sagittaria, which bears the combination of characters of Alismatiaceae on one side and Ranunculaceae on other side. Now, why we are talking about the Ranunculaceae every time when we are comparing the Alismatiaceae? Remember that within the group or within the order Raniales, we know that there are two families which are very important, which are placed at the beginning. One family is the family Magnoliaceae, and another family is the family Ranunculaceae. Now, as far as the Magnoliaceae is concerned, the Magnoliaceae is having the tree habitat, whereas the Ranunculaceae is concerned whether it is having a completely herbaceous habitat. So, Magnoliaceae are the tree forms and Ranunculaceae are the herbaceous forms. Many of the Ranunculaceae, for example, in Ranunculaceae, Winteraceae, Trochodendroceae, all these Ranunculaceae members, they are generally growing near the water body. These plants are succulent and they are growing near the water body. And because of that, Ranunculaceae, even though it is a typical dicot, it is treated as a marshy plant. It is treated as a marshy herbaceous dicot primitive family. Now, as Ranunculaceae also is growing near the marshy areas, and as also the Alismatiaceae is growing as an aquatic herb, these two are obviously compared to each other. The only difference is that in Ranunculaceae, we are having an open type of vascular bundle. But again, in Ranunculaceae, the xylem vessels are totally absent. In Alismatiaceae also, the xylem vessels are totally absent. In both these cases, xylem tracheids are present. Another difference is that in Alismatiaceae and Ranunculaceae, in Ranunculaceae, reticulate venation is present. In Alismatiaceae, the parallel venation is present. In Ranunculaceae, the shoot or the stem is herbaceous and it is aerial. Whereas in case of Alismatiaceae, the stem is underground, it is aquatic, and it is in the form of a corm or a bulb. Again, there is one distinct character that in Alismatiaceae, the floral arrangement is a trimerous type, whereas in Ranunculaceae, it is a pentamerous type. So even though both the families, they are showing a very close affinity and common characters, they are showing a distinctness, and because of that, the Ranunculaceae has been placed in dicots, whereas the Alismatiaceae has been placed in monocotyledons. There is one more character which we should not forget, and that in Ranunculaceae, polycotyledonary condition is seen. That is, the number of cotyledons is more than 2. It will be 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 in some genera. Whereas in Alismatiaceae, the number of cotyledons is basically 2, but one is suppressed and one is developed normally. And because of that, in alizomatosis, actually at the time of seed formation, the mature seed, it shows the presence of only one cotyledon, and that's why it has been placed in monocotyledons. So even though alizomatosis and ranunculaceae, they are discussed together, they are having several parallel characters. These are showing the sort of a progressive evolution, and now it is accepted that ranunculaceae might have given rise to alizomatosis in the course of evolution, and this particular origin of alizomatosis might have taken place almost 100 to 155 million years back, somewhere at the early Cretaceous period. Also, the floral character, particularly the stamens and carpels of alizomatosis and nymphaceae, they are compared together and they are showing several homogeneous characters, parallel characters. So it is indicating the parallel evolution. Now, Chadle in 1942 has also found that the vessels with a simple and porous perforation, that is pitted thickening, is a rule in alizomatosis. As I told you before, this is a unique character, which is a primitive character found in monocotyledons. And on anatomical condition, this character is more advanced than it is found in other families of this order of monocots. Because in other monocots, we can find the reticulate or spiral venation in the wood character, whereas in this particular alizomatosis, we are finding a typical simple pitted thickening. Now, at this location, at this juncture, I would like to bring a very interesting character you must be knowing, and that character is of a wood character. That a simple pitted thickening is found in alizomatosis. Similar type of simple pitted thickening is found in ranunculaceae, whereas the bordered pitted thickening is found in the gymnosperms. Particularly in Cycadales group, particularly in Bennetettles group, particularly even in Coniferous group also, we'll find a bordered pitted thickening. The bordered pitted thickening is nothing but it is a sort of evolution which has taken place in the wood architecture, and the simple pitted thickening is the most primitive character, which is indicated by the alizomatosis family as well as in the family Ranunculaceae on other side. And because of all these parallel characters, the alizomatosis is one of the important family, because this family can be treated as one of the link between the dicots and monocots, and also it is forming a link between the primitive hypothetical angiosperms, what can be called the proangiosperms, and an offshoot of this proangiosperms on one side, which is giving rise to the dicotyledonous form or dicotyledonous strain through ranunculaceae, and on the other side, it is following the monocotyledonous strain through alizomatosis. But remember, in both these conditions, as they are having the marshy habitat, this is a very interesting character. Remember, in case of dicotyledons, the terrestrial habit is considered as the primitive habit, and aquatic habitat is treated as an advanced character. That is, several plants, they acquired the aquatic habitat later on in the course of evolution. Whereas in case of monocotyledons, the aquatic habitat is more primitive and terrestrial habitat is more advanced. And because of that, exactly the reverse position is present as per the assumption of phylogeny is concerned in the primitiveness. In dicotyledons, the terrestrial habit is more primitive and aquatic habit is an advanced character. Whereas in monocotyledons, obviously, the aquatic habitat is a primitive character and the terrestrial habitat is an advanced character. And because of all the palmy group, all the bamboos group, they are considered as the most advanced monocots because they are showing the largest variation in their floral characters. And from that point of view, this particular family, alizomatosis, is very important because it is carrying a phylogenetic significance, because this may be treated as one of the link between the dicots and monocots. So before ending, I will just go through the figures. You can see the image of Sagittaria, which is having the submerged rootstock and the leaf structure which is coming up in the air. Here also in this another form of the Sagittaria, you can find the stem and root, they are embedded, whereas where the leaf characters, they are in the form of aerial. Same case is here in the Echinodolus form, where the stem is underground and the leaf structure of the shoot form is coming up. Same is the condition in Alisma, where it is again emergent plant that is growing on the area on the margins of water body, where the stem and root, they are embedded in the water body and the shoot part is coming up in the air. So this is Echinodolus and Alisma. Now this is a sketch which we have discussed at the beginning of the reproductive characters, and which is indicating several characters which are of primitive nature. And this is a sketch of Alisma, which is again indicating several primitive characters. Now you can see in the floral diagram at the center the free polycarpellary apocarpus condition. So you can see the free carpels which are arranged separately on a conical thalamus, and that is a unique character which is similar to that of Fernunculus. So with this discussion today, we'll stop for the present. Now this is the presentation of the family Alismataceae, the first monocot family. And if at all there are any queries, you can ask me in the chat box. I am opening up the chat box now.